There's a chakra.
There were so many vegetarians there, and there was a class of ladies there. Their whole intent was to get brahmacharis. They thought they were doing them a service, in my idea. So it's not like you had to say, get out of here, you know, like that. So we had to like somehow not have a bad reputation in Laguna, which would have been devastating for our preaching work. So we had to be very liberal-minded, but at the same time remain pure. And so, you know, there's a whole class of ladies who their intent was, oh, brahmacharis, oh, this will be our challenge, you know? So, by that diet, though, is like the devotees became like super pre-pubic, like children. It's like really pure. You know, it's really simple, and so all this
temporarily.
That's
the whole point. We've got to get started.
Yes.
Jai Saparikar Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhavi Giridhari Shishi Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai Jai Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Shri Nrsimha Bhagavana Ki Jai Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Guru Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Goprimanandi Bandeham Shri Guru Shijataha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shra Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bandi Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kiptascha Kamari Taranga Madhye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namah Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Vataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Siksha Gurudevs Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarisata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to all my Sri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So we've made it to the last item in the list of 6 positive qualities. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur now he's moving on to the final item. Utsahan Nishchayad Daryat Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyaga Sato Vritti Sadbir Bhakti Prasiddhyati. What is that final item? It is called Sadhu Vritti. Here it's told Sato Vritti. The actual form of the word is Sadhu Vritti. Means adopting the virtuous conduct of pure devotees. Sadhu Vritti. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our most worshipable Acharya, he's now telling us that sadhus are of 2 types. Grihastas, householders, and Griha Tyagis, renunciates. 2 types of sadhus. Hence, their vritti is also of 2 types. What does vritti mean? Behavior, conduct. Sadhu vritti. So their vritti is also of 2 types because there's 2 types of sadhus. That of a householder Vaishnava and that of a renunciant Vaishnava. 2 different types of vritti. We will individually examine these 2 types of vrittis. In addition to these 2, there are some modes of conduct that are beneficial for both types of sadhus. These will be described separately. The word vritti has 2 meanings. Propensity, which is called also pravritti. Pravritti means propensity. And also lifestyle, means jivan. How does a person live? Jivan. What is their lifestyle? So there's propensity, pravritti, and there's lifestyle, jivan. That is the 2 meanings of the word vritti. The word pravritti refers to one's individual nature or character, pravritti. The dharma of the living entity, corresponds to one's pravritti, or one's propensity, which arises from one's own nature. Now, in the previous essay, it was also discussing swabhav, to a large extent, one's nature, and how that's also connected to one's samskars from previous life and this life. So let's see where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes us. The dharma of the living entity corresponds to one's pravritti or propensity, which arises from one's own nature. In brackets, in other words, dharma is not determined by birth. Here he's quoting Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 11th chapter, 31st verse. Prayasvabhava vihito, nrinam dharmo yuge yuge, veda drigbhi, smrito rajan, pretya cheha cha sharma krit. O king, Brahmins who are well versed in the Vedas recognize, Brahmins who are well versed in the Vedas recognize that in each age the dharma prescribed in accordance with one's nature is auspicious both in life and death. I'm going to repeat this again. Okay. Brahmins who are well versed in the Vedas recognize that in each age, that means in each yuga, they recognize that the dharma prescribed in accordance with one's nature is auspicious both in life and death. So, dharma is prescribed according to nature, svabhava. And this is applicable in all yugas, all ages. So, in the various yugas, the sages who are fully conversant with the Vedas have generally systematized dharma according to people's nature. So this is done by the sages who are in full knowledge. And they do that, they prescribe in the various yugas. They systematize the dharma according to people's nature. This dharma is auspicious for all persons in both this world and the next. So if someone follows dharma, very auspicious. Those who take shelter of their natural tendency, their vritti, and they follow their own individual duty, swadharma, they attain in due course of time, they attain devotion to Sri Krishna that is free from the modes of material nature. And this is after transcending their karma according to their acquired nature. Again, I'm going to read that. I have to go to 2 different pages to read this. So, those who take shelter of their natural tendency, their vritti, and they follow their own individual duty, their swadharma, then they attain, what do they attain from this? In due course of time, by following, they attain devotion to Sri Krishna that is free from the modes of material nature after transcending their karma according to their acquired nature. So they transcend their acquired nature, their karma, and they attain pure devotion to Sri Krishna. Now, otherwise, if they deviate from their individual duty, they will not be able to make continual advancement. This is the teaching of the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-32. Now he quotes another verse. Vritya swabhava kritaya vartamana swakarma krit hitva swabhava jam karma shanayar nirgunatam iyat. Translation: a person who maintains his occupational duty, his swadharma, by taking shelter of his innate propensity, will gradually become detached from these activities and situated beyond the material modes. So just see how important is swadharma. Mike.
How does someone, like, in general, know what their occupational duty is supposed to be?
Well, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain that. But generally, in general, it's divided into the 4 divisions of human society. We have to be in one of these. There are 4 ashram dharmas, and there are 4 varna dharmas. And generally a person can be determined what dharma is theirs according to the qualities that they possess and according to the work that they perform. That's why Krishna says, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam. The 4 varnas, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam. I have created this, Krishna says, Guna Karma Vibhakasha, by the division of 2 analyses, guna and karma. What are his qualities? What is his propensity to work? His capability to perform action, okay? So, in general, this is the divisions. Now, our Gurudev has stressed, I've been on morning walks where Gurudev has brought this topic up, and he stressed that Varnashram is essential. That's why our acharyas have established, especially tomorrow is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappear and stay, and we'll be hearing about this great personality who established for all future generations a type of Varnashram Dharma that's applicable now. Like the standard Varnashram Dharma that's there in every yuga and every age is not fully applicable now. Why? It could be, but the human society has deviated so far from this. So to reestablish that, I mean, even in India it's deviated so far. So what to speak of foreign countries? It was deviated in India. But what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established is what he called Daivi Varnashram Dharma. And Gurudev specified that it's mostly pertaining to ashram and not to varna, mostly to ashram. And that's why we see that our Srila Prabhupada, when he came, what did he establish in his Krishna consciousness movement? 4 ashramas. I mean, he began with brahmachari and grihastha, because everybody was young pretty much. So, but then gradually vanaprastha and then sannyas he also introduced, right? Even in somewhat young age. Generally it's done in older age as they go through the ashrams. So we'll read on and we'll finalize this question and the understand how can one determine his swadharma. We'll discuss. Can save that. So now, again I'm reading this verse quoted from 7th canto 11th chapter. A person who maintains his occupational duty, swadharma, by taking shelter of his innate propensity, he will gradually become detached from these activities and situated beyond the material modes. So the point is to perform them according to your innate propensity, which is determined by your modes of nature and so forth, but so that you can gradually transcend them. That's the whole system. Follow your duty. Again and again, Krishna is telling in the Gita, in many, many different chapters, that by following one's duty and offering that to the Supreme Lord, at the end of the Gita especially, Krishna tells, any man can attain perfection by following his prescribed duty and offering that, performing that duty in worship of the Supreme Lord who's within the heart of every living entity, you see. And then gradually he can transcend. We'll go on. The word in this verse, nirgunata, it indicates bhakti in accordance with the general use of the word nirguna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nirgunata and nirguna. This is indicating bhakti, nirgun. What does nirgun mean? It means not of the 3 modes of nature, the 3 gunas. It's transcendental to that. So, now he quotes again from the same chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 7:11. From the 11th canto, chapter 25. Tasma deham imam labdva jnana vijnana sambhavam guna sangha vinirdhuya mam bhajantu vichakshana. Therefore, having taken birth in the human species, those who possess intelligence should completely rid themselves of all association with the modes of material nature and perform bhajan to me. Krishna's telling. Here, the words nirgunam madapashraya. This is spoken by Sri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam in another verse. He's not quoting the verse. Nirgunam mad apashraya. These words establish that whatever act is performed with bhakti is called nirguna, or transcendental to the modes of material nature. Now he quotes Srimad Bhagavatam 11:25, 34 and 35, continuing on from the last verse. Rajas tamas chabijayet sattva samsevaya muni sattvam chabijayet yukto nairapekshena shantadhi. By engaging himself, wait a second. Yeah. He's quoting 2 verses from 11th canto, but actually they're just 4 lines. Now he's saying, by engaging himself in only the mode of goodness, he shall obtain victory over the modes of passion and ignorance. Then that wise sage, being established in the performance of bhakti, shall obtain victory over even the mode of goodness by neglecting all the modes. So this is a whole conversation Krishna is having in 11th canto about how bhakti transcends the modes of material nature. There's a lot of this discussion in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying the means to attain the stage of nirguna. What are the means to become nirguna? To transcend the modes of material nature. He's telling that 4 varnas, the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, 4 varnas, and the 4 ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, they exist in accordance with the above 30 characteristics as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:18-42, a different chapter. Here's the verse. These are the 18, these are in accordance with the 30 characteristics as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhikshor dharma shamo himsa tapa iksha vano kasha grihino bhuta rakshejya dvijasya sevana. Tranquility, that is control of the mind, tranquility. And non-violence are the dharma of a sannyasi. Tranquility, control of the mind, and non-violence are the dharma of a sannyasi. Austerity and spiritual understanding are the duties of a vanaprastha. Austerity and spiritual understanding. Giving protection to all living entities and performing sacrificial worship, yajna, are the duties of a yes. Giving protection to all living entities and performing sacrificial worship are the duties of a grihastha. And serving one's guru is the duty of a brahmachari. Yes. The respective dharmas pertaining to the individual varnas are as follows. So that was ashram. Now, what are the dharmas pertaining to the individual varnas? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The dharmas of the brahmanas are studying, teaching, performing yajnas, having others perform yajnas, giving in charity, and accepting charity. There's 6 words I'm trying to remember Prabhupada used to quote. Let's see. Yajan, no, patan, yajan, Dan Pratigraha. That's the 6 of the Brahmanas. Patan means to study the Vedas, and also Pat, to teach the Vedas. Then Yajan, to engage in performance of yajna, sacrifices, and also to engage others in the performance of yajnas. And then Dan Pratigraha is for the Brahmins. Dan means giving in charity, and Pratigraha means accepting charity. These are the 6 activities of the Brahmins in Vedic culture, in any culture. Now, the functions of the Kshatriyas are maintaining one's life through protecting the citizens by awarding punishment and taxation. Yes, taxation is there in Vedic culture, but not to everybody. That's why today is very topsy-turvy. Because the Vaishyas, the wealthy persons, they would be taxed. Not the shudras, who are just making a living, right? So, and that's the function of the Kshatriyas, is to collect tax. But also, the most important is to protect. It is protecting the citizens by awarding punishments. How does that protect the citizens? To award punishments, a Kshatriya, how is that protecting the citizens?
It deters people from committing crimes, supposedly?
Yes.
They don't want to do
That's why we have, in every single government system, there's a place where criminals are put so that they don't continue to harm the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
They're either jailed or they're executed. But this is the function of the Kshatriyas. Then, the functions of the Vaishyas are Krishna also tells, he's explaining these in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. 3. What are they? Functions of the Vaishyas are farming, that's called Krishi. Then Goraksha, rearing cows, protection of cows. And Vanijyam, business. So within business, trade, even banking, all these things are activity of the Vaishyas. And then the livelihood of those of mixed castes. And the sole occupation of the Shudras is what? What's the sole occupation of the Shudras? Which class? Brahmins. Here it says, is to serve the Brahmanas. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Shri Shri Radha Govinda. We generally hear that, but here he's specifying the sole occupation of the Shudras is serving the Brahmanas. Yes. And then the livelihood of those, so this is the 4 Varnas, but then those who are of mixed castes, is the current occupation by which their family members maintains themselves. So that's handed down. Those who are of the mixed castes. And when Krishna is mentioning this, particularly in the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he's mentioning the qualities and the dharma of each one of the 4 Varnas. And then he summarizes it all, and he says, any man can attain perfection simply by following his own quality of work and serving the Lord of all creatures, who is within the heart of every living entity. Any man can attain perfection by doing this. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is continuing by the next section titled, The Regulation to Make the Mind and the Body Favorable for Bhajan. The regulation to make the mind and the body favorable for bhajan. The conclusion of all these principles of Srimad Bhagavatam is, all these different verses, all these conclusions, the conclusion is that Hari Bhajan is the only objective for the people of this world. Only objective. All these different rules, all these different swabhavas, all these different dharmas, actually Hari Bhajan, to serve and to do worship to the Supreme Lord Hari, Krishna. This is the only objective for the people of this world. However, it is impossible to engage in bhajan until the gross and the subtle bodies have been made favorable for that. Oh, what is this telling? What's this telling? Should I read it again? Okay. Yes. It is impossible to engage in bhajan until the gross and the subtle bodies have been made favorable for that. What is being told here?
Partly, you can't cheat Krishna with your fake bhajan. No, seriously. No, that isn't.
I didn't notice. I mean, it was simplified by Prabhupada giving us the 4 regular principles in the morning and evening program to purify the body and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that under Gurudev's direction, he puts us on a course of purification whereby we can become fit for serving Krishna.
Yeah. Bhajan is the means to attain transcendence. But in order to perform bhajan, the gross and the subtle bodies, they both have been made favorable for that. Otherwise, bhajan is not possible, he says. It's impossible to engage in bhajan until the gross and the subtle bodies have been made favorable for that. Therefore, the foremost duty of human beings is to make these 2 external bodies favorable for bhajan. This is the foremost duty of the human beings. Because why? Because the only real purpose of life, he just told, is to do Hari Bhajan. So the foremost duty of all the human beings is to make these 2 external bodies, subtle and gross, favorable for bhajan. To maintain the gross body, it is necessary to accumulate such things as a house, grains, water, and so on. And for the subtle body, to prosper, true knowledge, sadvidya, and a righteous mode of conduct, sadvritti, are needed. I'm going to read this again. The subtle body. What's a subtle body made of?
Mind, intelligence, and false ego.
3 elements, subtle elements of Krishna's material energy. Mana, buddhi, ahankar. The mind, the intelligence, and the false ego. So, the subtle body, for the subtle body to prosper, then true knowledge, which is called sadvidya, true knowledge, and also a righteous mode of conduct, means sadvritti, knowledge and conduct, they are needed. And for this reason, it is necessary to adopt a means by which these 2 necessities can be procured, and our Bhagavad Bhajan can continue. So the gross body, the subtle body, they have necessities. If you can procure the necessities, then Bhagavad Bhajan can continue. After the gross and subtle bodies are made completely favorable for bhakti and are brought to the state of nirgun, that means transcendental, that is the state in which they are free from the modes of material nature, this task of Bhagavad Bhajan becomes simple. Again, after the gross and subtle bodies are made completely favorable for bhakti and are brought to the state of nirgun, that is, the state in which they are free from the modes of material nature, then this task of Bhagavad Bhajan becomes simple. But how can we bring people to this stage? There is one solution. That's part of it. But now he's giving the solution to accomplish what he's just talking about, making favorable for bhajan. There's one solution. Whatever nature and desires arise in the living entities as a result of their reaping the fruits of their activities since time immemorial. So these are a mixture of the three modes of material nature. See? So he's saying the nature, whatever nature and the desires, because nature and desires go together. So whatever nature and desires arise in the living entities, which means that it's a result of their reaping the fruits of their activities since time immemorial, right? This is a condition of all jivas. So what are those? Those natures and those desires? They are a mixture of the three modes of material nature: goodness, sattva, passion, raja, and ignorance, tama. This is the solution he's now explaining. So, what about that? What about that? It is necessary that one first increase goodness. Because you can't just suddenly jump from ignorance to nirgun. Or from passion. This is stated in the very beginning of first canto of Bhagavatam. So it is necessary that one first increase goodness. And by that, subdue passion and ignorance. Subduing passion and ignorance, increasing goodness, subduing passion and ignorance, and making goodness the most prominent quality. Right? At that time, one will be led by the mode of goodness, sattva, gun. When sattva is completely under the control of bhakti, it becomes transcendental to the modes, nirgun. Again, when sattva, goodness, is completely under the control of bhakti, it becomes transcendental to the modes, nirguna. In other words, when sattva gun is endowed with bhakti, it is called nirgun. By adopting this process, one's body and mind will gradually become favorable for Bhagavad Bhajan. How clear? Huh? You understand? This is very essential. What Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's so genius in being able to give these formulas, which are completely, it's already told in Bhagavad Gita, it's already told in Srimad Bhagavatam, like this. But he, in a very simple way, he's explaining. So what did we understand from what was discussed here? Anyone can offer their understanding at this point. Get the microphone ready.
I'll say something.
Okay, wait.
Okay, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know they were doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, he was discussing the Vritti mark, can I
Little
call it
closer.
Vritti mark? But on Vritti, one's own nature, that's based on the accumulation of karmas collected from many lifetimes. So how to make one fit for Bhagavat Bhajan is to purify one's body and subtle body too. So to do that, one has to rise to the platform of goodness and then have that in one's existence, mode of goodness, be controlled by bhakti. So he's giving a hint what needs to be done, now how it's to be done.
Right, now the sattva, the goodness, when it is completely under the control of bhakti, then it becomes transcendental to the modes of nature, nirguna. And so he's saying that, in other words, when sattva guna is endowed with bhakti, has to be endowed with bhakti, then it is called nirguna. So by adopting this process, one's body and mind will gradually become favorable for Bhagavat Bhajan. This is the formula of how did our lives radically shift. I mean, those of us who were not born into this, right? How did they, every one of us have some story to tell, how this happened in our lives, right? Everyone has their own individual story. In a lot of cases, because of the intensity of the searching, the yearning to know, to what is this world, to get the answers and to know what to do, all of this, inquiry, jivasya tattva jigyasa. The whole purpose of human life is to inquire about the absolute truth, what you were asking the other day. Jivasya, of our life, the purpose of life, tattva jigyasa, to inquire. If someone has that tendency, we have seen, that's how they can gradually come into the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is for giving this highest, purest Sanatan Dharma. The Sanatan Dharma means the duty of the soul, of the Atma, not just of the body. This is where it differentiates between the kind of like mundane level of Varnashram Dharma, which is on the material level, but it helps one to gradually be promoted in the modes of nature. But that's too slow in this Kali Yuga. People live very short lives. And the Kali Yuga is full of unlimited contamination of the lower modes of nature. It's become the lifestyle, it's become the culture. If someone is sincere, Krishna is in the heart, and he hears that. He knows when this jiva, and also because of previous lives, good activities, Gyata Sukriti, Gyata Sukriti, Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti, like this. So a jiva will come. It's a very fascinating thing to watch. How jivas, what do you call it? They wash up onto the shore. You see? That's what's happening to the jivas. We're drowning in this ocean of material existence. But some jivas are now ready to wash up onto the shore of sadhusanga. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is, to rescue all the jivas. And they have their various mixtures of modes and so forth. But there's particular quality, sincerity. There's a particular quality. Sincerity means truthfulness. Truthfulness. You want to know the truth. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Tattva means truth. So if someone is searching for that, they're a candidate, and Krishna brings them gradually to sadhusanga. So this happened to us, very fortunate. And then we were immediately engaged in a radical shift of a lifestyle change. For some, extremely radical shift, and for some, not as radical, but still, it's in the category of radical shift. How you can go from meat eating to not eating meat. That's a damn radical shift, right? Yes. Taking drugs to not doing that. having illicit sex, to not doing that, being celibate, being self-controlled. The culture of the Western world was without the mode of goodness tinged. But still, it doesn't mean that persons don't have the mode of goodness inherent in their natures. It's there, but now it has to be engaged. When that tendency towards the mode of goodness becomes engaged in following the purifying lifestyle of the Vaishnava culture, right, then mode of goodness becomes prominent. And not just mode of goodness, simultaneously the activities of bhakti, which is pure and transcendental. Now, not everybody is performing pure and transcendental bhakti, but bhakti itself, even if it's tinging what someone is doing, it affects that in a very, very positive and purifying way. So if somebody will follow this prescribed method given by the acharyas, they will gradually rise out of the lower modes of nature. And that's stated right in the very second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana. Is being told that one who hears about Krishna, what happens? If he hears Krishna Katha, Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana. This is punya. This is a very exalted activity. Vritti antaksto hi abhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Krishna is situated in the heart. He's there and he sees, oh, they're hearing about me. Now Krishna cleans. Krishna, in the form of Harikatha, begins to clean all of the inauspicious things in the heart. And then nashtak prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. One enters into actual nityam bhagavata sevaya, always serving, doing service to Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and serving the person Bhagavatam. Nashtak prayeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shloke. Krishna is called Uttama Shloka, who is glorified by the most beautiful, sublime poetry. Uttama Shloka, that's Krishna's name. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Now, to that personality, Sri Krishna, bhakti comes and it becomes situated in the heart firmly. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. What happens then? Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobha dayaschaye cheta etara navidham stitam sattve prasidati. Now it becomes situated in sattva gun, stitam sattve prasidati. But actually this is the transcendental. It is coming into transcendental sattva gun and the lower modes of passion and ignorance, kama, lobha, adayas, which cause lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, all of these things, kama, lobha, adayas, chaye, cheta etair anavidham. Now the cheta, the pure atma, the pure soul, the consciousness in the heart becomes anavidham, unaffected by the effect of the lower modes of passion and ignorance. Then prasanna manaso, evam prasanna manaso, bhagavad bhakti yogataha. Now prasanna manasa, now the mind becomes manasa, prasanna, very satisfied, very peaceful. Prasanna manasa bhagavad bhakti yogataha. By the process of bhagavad bhakti, bhakti yoga. Bhagavad bhakti yogataha, bhagavad tattva vijnanam. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam. Now he gains actual realized knowledge of Bhagavad tattva. It's called vigyan, not gyan, vigyan, realized. Mukta sangasya jayati. Now he becomes liberated from all the modes of nature, from the chain of karma. And finally, the fifth verse, vidyate hridaya grantis, chidyante sarva samshaya, kshiyante chasya karmani, drishta evatmanishvare. Is the final of the 5 verses. Gurudev would always have me stand up and tell them. That's why I know them. So, vidyate hridaya grantis means, vidyate means to pierce. So we have this knot. It's like a very entangled knot. Hridaya granti. This is keeping our heart entangled in the material existence and desires and reactions to our karma, all of that. But what happens then, at this stage? Vidyate, it becomes pierced. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante, sarva samshaya. Chidyante means to break into many pieces. What? Sarva samshaya. All doubts, samshaya, uncertainties. That's the effect of the lower modes of nature. But at that stage, when he has Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, that's all cut to pieces. And then finally, Kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare. Kshiyante means terminated. What's terminated? Chasya karmani. All of the chain of karma that keeps us in this world. When drishta evatmanishvare. Drishta means when one sees the Supreme Lord, who is the master of all living entities situated in the heart, then this takes place. So we ran out of time. That's the last. There's no more time because I'm very strict on the time of starting the artik. Yes. So, but this is a very interesting discussion which we're going to continue tomorrow. And there's so many more things to learn about this. But even after the artik, I'll be here. If anyone has questions, we can continue. Gaur Premanande. Jai Shri Upadeshamritam ki jai, Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Shri Gaur Arti, Radha Krishna Jugal Arti ki jai. Pancha Kapati Vishwa, Sri Pasya Budaya Vichar Patitanam Bhavani. Varishna